Welcome everyone. I am Dr. Manoj Kumar Sharma, Associate Professor, ITS College of Pharmacy, Muradnagar. This is lecture number 11 and the topic is probability, and this is the first part of the probability. The subject is biostatistics and research methodology. The subject code is BP 801T. The branch is Bachelor in Pharmacy and the university is Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University. So, in this lecture, the objective of this lecture are what the probability and what the use of probability, and the contents of this lecture is definition of probability, probability distribution, types of probability distribution and binomial probability distribution. So, in this lecture I will cover these 4 points: what is probability, second probability distribution, types of probability distribution and binomial probability distribution. The first term is probability. Probability is the likelihood of something happening in the future. It is expressed as a number between 0, which can never happen, and to 1, will always happen. So, we in simpler terms we can say probability is the chance of occurrence of an event, and the value of probability can be expressed as a fraction, as a decimal, as a percent or as odds. If we see some things on probability line, when the value of 0 of the probability, we can say it is impossible, because if in an event have occur, we cannot say that the probability is 0, and the maximum probability of an random experiment is 1, and when the value of probability is 1, then we say it is a certain or nishchit. So, probability always lies between 0 to 1 and we show it on a number line. Sometimes if we measure a probability with a number like 10% chance of rain, or you can use a word such as impossible, unlikely, possible, even chance, likely and certain. So, when the value lie between 0 to 0.5, then we say unlikely, and if the value of probability is 0.5, then we say even chance or equal chance, as in cases of if we toss a coin, then you say there is a equal chance to comes head or tail. That means, both head or tail have equal chance to come, and if the probability lies 0.5, but less than 1, then we say likely event. For example, if we have 5 balls in a bag and 4 balls are blue and 1 is red, and if we draw a blue ball, then the chance of blue ball is called likely, that is 4 in 5. So, these are terms likely, unlikely, certain and impossible. Some common terms related to probability: first is experiment. Experiment is a situation involving chance or probability that leads to results called outcome, and outcome, it is a possible result of random experiment, and if all outcomes have equal chance to come, or you can say if all outcomes have equal probability, then we say equal likely outcomes. Another term in the terms of probability is sample space. The possible set of outcomes of an experiment is known as sample space. So, sample space is the set of outcomes. For example, if we throw a coin 2 times, then the possible outcomes will be both are head, first head, second tail, first tail, second head, and both are tail. So, if I toss two coin, then the possible outcomes are this. So, this set of possible outcomes of a experiment is called sample space. Sample space is the set of total outcomes of an event. We take another example, there are 52 cards in a deck, not including joker. So, the sample space is all 52 possible cards like ace of hearts, 2 of hearts, etc. So, sample space is a set of all possible outcomes of a experiment. Event. Event is one or more outcomes in an experiment is called event, and sample, another term is sample point. Each element of the sample space is called sample point. For example, I toss a 2 coin and we have outcomes like this. Then each element of this sample space is called sample point. For we take another example, if we have pack of 52 pack card and we draw a card, then the 5 of club is a sample point, or the king of heart is a sample point. Similarly, in our example, this tail and head is a sample point. Sample point, each element of the sample space is called sample point. Now, the types of probability. The probability are 3 types. Number 1, classification definition of probability or classical probability. Second, statistical or empirical definition, and third is subjective probability. First is classical definition of probability. The classical definition of probability, if we see that it is the simplest form of probability. This is the simplest form of probability that has equal odds. We remember equal odds of something happen. So, in classical probability, this is the simplest form of probability that has equal odds of something happen. Classical means equal chance of occurrence of something. That means, a random experiment in which every event have equal chance of occurrence, then this is a classical probability, and the formula for to calculate the probability of an event E equal to number of favorable outcomes upon total number of outcomes. This is the main formula to calculate the probability. Number of favorable outcomes divided by the total number of outcomes. For example, if we want to determine the probability of getting an even number when rolling a dice, this is the question. We roll a dice and we want to calculate what is the probability of an even number. So, if we roll a dice, the sample space of the outcomes are the numbers, and these numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. These are the main outcomes of the when we roll a die. जब आप एक डाई को रोल करते हैं तो आपकी आउटकम आएंगी 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. अब we want to calculate the probability. If you see here in this example, every number have equal chance to come out. For example, if we calculate the probability of 1, so probability of 1 is favorable outcome is 1 and the total outcomes are 6, this is 1 by 6. So, every number have equal chance to occur or comes out. So, this is the classical probability. Now, in our question we want to determine the probability of getting an event number when rolling a die. We want to get an even number. So, the even number are 2, 4, 6. So, favorable outcomes are 3 and the total number outcomes are 6. So, the probability of even number formula is favorable outcome upon total outcome. Favorable outcomes are 3 and the total outcomes are 6. So, the probability is 3 by 6 or you can say 1 by 2. The second probability is empirical probability and this probability is based on the past experience. This probability also known as relative frequency or experimental probability, and the probability of an event of empirical probability is equal to number of times event E occurs divided by the total number of observed occurrence. For example, 383 of 751 business graduates were employed in the past. The probability that a particular graduate will be employed in his or her major area. So, to calculate this probability, we have the favorable outcomes are 383 and the total outcomes are 751. So, to calculate the probability that a particular graduate will be employed in his or her major area is equal to favorable outcome upon total outcome. The favorable outcomes are 383 and the total outcomes are 751. So, it will be equal to 0.51 or 51%. So, in this example we can say 51% of a business graduate have chance to employed in his or her major area. The second example is the probability that your income tax return will be audited if there are 2 million mailed to your district office and 2,400 to be audited. So, if we want to calculate the probability that you will be audited or not, so the favorable outcomes are 2,400 and the total outcomes are 2 million. So, when we calculate these value, we found this 0.0012 or 0.12%. So, 0.12% is chance to be audited. Now, the third one is subjective probability. Subjective probability, it is a type of probability derived from an individual person judgment or in experiment about whether a specific outcome is likely to occur. So, in subjective probability, this is coming from a person judgment or experience. For example, probability of landing an head when tossing a coin. Second, probability of winning a lottery. Third, chance that stock market goes down in coming year. So, these are the some example of subjective probability. In this type of probability, it is comes when person judgment or experience. Now, the second term of our topic in this lecture, probability distribution. In probability distribution, what is probability distribution? So, before to understand the probability distribution, we first know distribution, and as we know the frequency distribution, it is a listing of observed or actual frequencies of all the outcomes of an experiment that actually occurred when experiment was done. So, frequency distribution we know it is a listing. When we make a list of observed or actual frequency of all outcomes of an experiment that actually occurred when experiment was done, this is called frequency distribution. And similarly, the probability distribution is a listing of the probabilities of all the possible outcomes that occur if an experiment was done, or we can say it is the distribution of the all probabilities of a random variable corresponding to all values. अगर हमारे पास कोई एक रैंडम वेरिएबल है, उसकी डिफरेंट वैल्यूज हैं और उसकी डिफरेंट वैल्यूज के कोरस्पोंडिंग का जो प्रोबेबिलिटी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन होगा वही प्रोबेबिलिटी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कहलाएगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, मेरे आई टॉस ए कॉइन टू टाइम्स, I toss a coin 2 times, then the outcomes will be both are head, both are tail, head tail, like this. And if the random variable is number of head, variable is number of head, and the value of number of head are 0, 1 and 2. Then the distribution of all the probabilities of corresponding to these values is called probability distribution. The probability distribution described as a diagram or a table, a mathematical formula. Probability distribution are two types, as we have two types of random variable, either it will be discrete or continuous. So, when the random variable is discrete, then we have random discrete probability distribution. For example, we toss a coin, we get the number of heads. So, in this we find the numbers, and if the random variable is continuous, then we have random probability distribution. For example, the random variable is height, weight, etc. So, probability distribution are two types, discrete and continuous. In discrete probability distribution, we further divided into binomial distribution and Poisson distribution. When the outcomes are 2, or you can say the data is dichotomous, then the distribution is binomial. That means, for example, success, failure, present, absent, like this, then we apply binomial distribution. And if it has more than 2 values and discrete, then we apply Poisson distribution. And if the random variable is continuous, then we have normal probability distribution. Now, presentation of this is the tree diagram for a probability distribution. If a fair coin is tossed 2 times, when we toss it first times, we get head and tail, and if in first chance is head, then in second chance there are 2 possibility, head or tail. So, the total outcomes are head head, head tail, and if in first coin we find tail, then there will be 2 probability, one is head and another is tail, then the outcomes will be tail head, head and tail tail. So, these are all possible fold outcomes, and this is the probability tree diagram for the distribution. Now, we calculate the probability when we get 2 head. The probability of 2 head is 1 by 2 into 1 by 2, this is 1 by 4, and probability of getting 1 head is 1 by 4 and 1 by 4, and probability of 2 tail is probability of 1 by 2 and 1 by 2, this will be equal to 1 by 4. So, this is the tree diagram distribution of the probability distribution. And if we want to calculate the probability of at least 1 head, the probability of 1 head equal to, for probability of 1 head, एट लीस्ट वन हेड, वन हेड भी हो सकता है, एक से ज़्यादा हेड भी हो सकते हैं। तो जब एक हेड आएगा तो प्रोबेबिलिटी होगी, एक हेड किस में कितने में आ रहा है, 2 में, 2/4, एक इसमें 1/4 आ गया आपका, एक इसमें 1/4 आ गया। तो एटलीस्ट वन हेड के लिए 1/4 एंड 1/4। और अब क्योंकि एक से ज़्यादा भी आ सकते हैं, तो एक से ज़्यादा कितने आ रहे हैं, 2 हेड, तो वो हो गया 2 हेड में 1/4। तो टोटल प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ एटलीस्ट वन हेड विल बी इक्वल टू 1/4 प्लस 1/4 प्लस 1/4 इक्वल टू 3/4। Now this is the table form for discrete probability distribution. If we tossing a coin 3 times, we get the 3 outcomes: 3 head, 2 head, 1 tail. Now 1 head, tail, head, head, tail, 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 head, head, tail, head, tail, 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 head, and all 3 tails. And if the random variable is number of head, and if x represents the number of head, the number of head will be have all these 4 values: x equal to 0, that means when there is no head; x equal to 1, when x it has 1 head; when x equal to 2, that means when number of heads are 2; and 3 means when in this experiment number of head are 3. And when we calculate the probability for this one head, so one head is here, sorry, there is no head, no head here, only here when 3 tails. So the probability is no head is favorable outcome 1, total outcomes 8. So this is the 1/8. Probability of one head, probability of one head किस में आ रहा है, इसमें आ रहा है 1, वन हेड हमें देखना है, एक तो इसमें आ रहा है 1 हेड और 2, 3. So favorable outcome 3, total head 8, outcomes 8, so 3/8. Similarly we can calculate for 2 head 3/8, and for 1 all 3 heads are 1/8. So this is the probability distribution in the tabular form of a random experiment. Now binomial probability distribution. In binomial probability distribution, there, as I explained you, we apply binomial probability distribution when the random variable has discrete values and data is dichotomous in nature. That means either present, absent, success, failure, up, down, मेल, फीमेल, डे, नाइट. तो अगर आपका रैंडम वेरिएबल ऐसा है जिसके 2 आउटकम्स हैं, तब आप बाइनोमियल प्रोबेबिलिटी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन अप्लाई करते हैं. तो इन बाइनोमियल प्रोबेबिलिटी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन देयर आर सर्टेन फिनोमिना in nature which can be identified as Bernoulli process, in which there is a fixed number of n trials carried out. Each trial has only 2 possible outcomes, say success or failure, true or false. Probability of occurrence of any outcome remain same over, and trials are statically independent. So binomial probability distribution is a discrete probability distribution which express the probability of one set of alternative, either success and failure. So if we have a random experiment and there are n number of trials in that experiment, so what to find the probability of r number of success in this trial equal to NCR p raised to power r q raised to power n minus r. This is the probability of x equal to r, x equal to r. So probability of r times success in this experiment equal to NCR p raised to power r q raised to power n minus r, and here be remember here p plus q equal to 1, where p is the probability of success and q is the probability of failure. So r is the number of success which we want to desired, n is the number of trials, p is the probability of success, q is the probability of failure. There is a question for practice: what is the probability of 3 of 6 patients will be cured if the probability of cure is 60%. The number of lists are n equal to 6, r equal to 3, probability of success p equal to 60% and q equal to 1 minus p, that is 1 minus 0.6 equal to 0.4. So, the probability of 3 patient cured equal to 6 C 3, 0.6 raised to power 3 multiplied 0.4 raised to power 3. On solving this, as we know 663 equal to 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1 and 3 into 2 into 1 upon into 3, क्योंकि 6C3 को आप ऐसे लिखेंगे factorial 6, factorial 3 and factorial 3. The value of this we write at here 6.6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 1 into 1, okay, and this will be equal to 0.276. Now, the some measure of central tendency in binomial distribution, mean equal to mu equal to NP and standard deviation equal to sigma equal to square root of NP, where n is the number of observation, p is the probability of success. For example, we want to calculate the mean of binomial distribution is 20 and its standard deviation is 4, then what is the value of n, p and q. So, here SD is 4, mean of BD equal to mu equal to 20, since mean BD equal to mu into NP. On solving this, we get equal to 2, and from equation 1 and 2 we find the value of q equal to 60 by 20 equal to 4 by 5 and p plus q equal to 1. So, p is 1 minus q equal to 1 minus 1 by 4 by 5 equal to 1 by 5 and n equal to 100. Thank you.